to see what the modern day wants, I think. So obviously there's my ASMR notebook. So here we go. So basically, as I said before, Mgtow stands for men going their way, which is for ones who want to stay single or don't want to bother being with people because of bad relationships, bad pasts, or just trying to find people and it's a bunch of gold diggers or something like that. And so here's the beginning of the notes. Right? So some men feel that the marriage and dating scene can be bad for them, like divorce can lead to men losing their kids, paying a shit ton of alimony, and a lot in child support, which is true. Lots of men feel like they barely have rights when it comes to reproduction and marriage just divorce, which is true because a lot of marriages end in divorce. At one point, there was statistics where 2 out of 3 marriages would end in divorce, and that's very high numbers. That's kind of like if they told you 2 out of 3 parachutes would, 2 out of 3 parachutes could possibly be dysfunctional when you go skydiving. Would you want to go skydiving? And so of course when it comes to the alimony, child support, even if it's just alimony, like they charge a lot. Courts don't generally ask what you can afford, so that they expect you to pay for it. Of course, as usual, they'll put you arrested. They'll pay child support there. Again, you guessed it, they're gonna arrest you. And then of course with that, the messed up law system, there's a lot of men and women, but more men, that get arrested on basically back alimony payments or child support payments, and makes them poor, barely on the streets, or again arrested, because eventually they get to that point and then it gets worse and they can't afford it. In some cases, the women actually, or the men, depending on which side it is, obviously we're talking, will say, all right, I need more money because it's not enough. And they could say, I don't have enough, I can't afford it, as I'm barely affording it as. And some will actually go and say, that's not my problem, and actually go to court and demand and find an excuse to get more, which is a lot of why I go, Mgtow, or something called Mgtow, which is the female version. And so, and obviously there's the guys who think it's unfair to always be expected to pay for, for everything, which I can understand, where, it's a relationship, you want, both parties to kind of help each other out, since it's not one-sided or black and white, but it's meant more like a partnership where you help each other out and all that stuff. Or like originally the movement started in like European countries, which I remember, from that, and I fact checked to make sure it's true. They originally started in European countries, like usually around like the England area, Australia. Mostly Australia is where originally, if you want to talk about really originally started, usually it was Australia where the originals started. And but it does exist in America, obviously. And like comedian Bill Burr was asked about, obviously you know who that is. Bill Burr's a very anti-politically correct comedian, like George Carlin, of course. And so it says, and he basically tells us stories about, about his dating and when he was, to where he said, and quote, and said, be careful when, basically, be careful what you did, which is obvious, look for red flags, that kind of thing, which is obvious to anything, And he just said, and he basically says, quote, and just tell him who you are. And he said, basically tell you who you are, and don't change yourself completely for somebody. He just said, and he said, quote, if you like football or you like sports, say, I like sports, have a cigar, drink a beer, and sometimes I like to sit down in my living room and do that. Hey, what do you like to do? Kind of thing. And that's basically his, not my words, but his words and take on, that kind of thing, And so, big reasons why they go Mgtow. Well, I got a bunch of different lists. So number 1 would be lots of time they lose their children and don't get custody of their children. And because I grew up without a father. So when growing up without a father, it was hard because I wanted to know who he was. And I had a stepfather, but I was told exactly what it was. He was my stepfather. He wasn't my biological father who, did the process, let's just say, and helped my mother have me. And of course, My father, unfortunately, did some bad stuff and landed himself in prison and didn't know it until my mother did some research and found his mugshot on the internet. Since he was on a registered thing by the jail. Unfortunately, I don't like to get into it, but that's, you get the idea. And so one of the reasons, number one, they put lots of time they lose their children, don't get custody of children, which is true. Happens a lot of times. And a child, whether it's a son or a daughter, they need to have both parents. Like they need an older male figure and an older female figure, a woman figure, which is obvious, for better academic success. And there's statistics that show kids do better and stay out of jail and do better and succeed in life when they have, both parents, a mother and a father, which makes sense, Number two, lots of times courts favor women more than men. Like, for instance, there's some cases where women will false accuse them of violence/rape. It's not all women, it's not men, but there's some men who will blame women. Some women may blame men for it when it never happened. Why? I don't know. Personally, I don't know. Like, some have good reasons for it, some don't. But there's different reasons that people do it and stuff. Just close the door real quick. Okay. No, it's not too noisy. Or not, because the door opened. And so basically what happens, and usually when it comes to, a lot of times the court's out the woman. So unfortunately, when it's said towards a man, he'll lose scholar college sponsorships. If he's on like a sports team, he can risk getting kicked off the sports team. And this is even if he doesn't do it. And there's ones that didn't do it, proven that they didn't do it, and they still lost this stuff, and they still said they don't want, because of what happened and the people that knew, they don't want to bring them back. So it can be damaging to someone's life. And ruin their life or success. And who doesn't want success? Who does want to have money and make money? Hell, everybody does. Wants to have good income. And it happens a lot more than you think. And the courts usually say the woman, which doesn't help, which I'm more of, I don't care who says it, I would rather be more like, okay, I'll listen to what you have to say, and I'll listen to what they have to say, and then look at the facts, and then think of statistics and stuff, and be like, all right, who do I believe is telling the truth, and who isn't telling the truth, And very, very carefully think of who is, so I don't get the wrong person, done wrong, or if I have done them wrong, and I was a judge and put them in jail, all right, release them, arrest this person for making it up, and then what can we do to help this person get back on their feet? Can we have their slate wiped clean? Is there something we can do? That just seems would be fair to me, It says lots of marriages end in divorce, and mostly men will lose more than 50% of their stuff/belongings. And this goes for both men and women. Where they can lose 50%, of course, which the majority is men because of the court systems. But there are, I don't want to deny it, that's just men, that's not, it's actually women happen too, You can lose up to 50% or more in a lot of cases, it's more than 50%. Which again, I don't think is fair, because then one person could have a job, one could be a stay-at-home mom or dad, and then the person who's a stay-at-home say, all right, well, I need this money to pay alimony, and then the person who's working has to pay alimony, but the problem is that alimony payments can be a lot, and like I said before, some people might make stuff up or try and find a reason they need more alimony, when in some cases they actually are buying gold watches, gold jewelry, and I've actually seen that before, where my mother was helping somebody who she knew was poor, and we went to help them out, show them where to go for some place you can get like free supplies, like it was like clothing and some food to help you get through. And there was I actually saw somebody, and this person actually talked about how about their welfare and stuff, and actually they literally had gold watches, a gold diamond ring, and they're online to get free food and clothes for their kids. But they had these expensive jewelry all over them, Now, it may not happen a lot, but there are people, unfortunately, there's people like that out there. And before I put, men worry about paying high rates for child support. Sometimes in cases, men will be arrested for not paying child support or not being able to afford it, which again happens both men and women have to pay child support, but the majority of men are usually, going to statistics, are paying male child support more than women are. And when they do, they can get arrested for not being able to make those payments on time, in which I think that the payments need to be adjusted so that the person can afford it, so that instead of being arrested, they can make the payments to help their child, but that won't lead to some court case where they end up in jail or something horrible like that. And it makes life harder for them. And then obviously, some feel bitter towards women being in a relationship due to a bad past relationship or relationships, which I'm not. Which some people are that way, where they might have had a rejection, they might have had their heart broken, and so they might be bitter or worried or have anxiety or something towards that. So some of them who in that movement are like that, not all of them, but there is a number of them, or a group or whatever, that are like that. But it's not all, obviously. And some are afraid of being heartbroken, and that's pretty much, these two are about the same, so I'm just gonna, that, which I'm not sure why I put it like that, because those are kind of repeat. Part of that's broken down to that, so I'm not sure why that was part of the notes. But there's men who would like to work on their career rather than being in a relationship, which isn't a bad thing. When you're young, you want to work on your career. If you're not with somebody, you want to work on your career, build job, build money, build income. So that way, if you do want to start a family, you're like, all right, you want to build income. So when you are able to have kids, or you decide you want to settle down, that you are able to, that way you have time to study, or study the stock market, or learn more about your career. Maybe learn books that are similar to your career to help you in that career. Or if you're young and you want to see schooling, or whatever your particular situation is, or maybe you want to do a better job, but you start a job that you like, but it's down low, and you have to build your way up enough for promotions and impressing your bosses and supervisors. Which is, you want to build yourself up and make something of yourself too. I'm supposed to say that's all our parents want to, And obviously after divorce, then people could lose a lot from their house, car, different stuff, apartment, etc., which is true. Where some people lose their house and it's like, what the heck? Where am I supposed to live? And a lot of times courts do that, which, again, it should be split, like right down the middle. But unfortunately, the court system's a bit black and white in a way. It's always one-sided and not double-sided, where they need to meet more of what both individuals need to help them in the best way, so that nobody gets screwed over, or nobody has issues, or is on the street, or someone who is successful but then afterwards goes down to homeless on the street, or a penny pincher, and they barely have any money and they're struggling. And obviously, I'll never go about the false accusing. Personally, I think, as a personal opinion, I don't think anybody should be falsely accused of anything, especially rape or domestic violence, etc., which does happen. Unfortunately, when I was in high school, in this personal story, I was in high school. My first relationship was, bad. I wasn't in a relationship that actually was, domestic violence. I was smacked, hit, shoved into lockers, shoved into the wall. I was kicked. I was hit in the back, smacked in the back of the head. And then I was constantly arguing over and over again. I was belittled, or I was gaining weight, and I was told I was too fat, and I was a fat ass, or I need to lose some weight, I need to run on a treadmill, and it just, usually people don't believe it, because they'll say that because the girl, it's not happening. Usually a guy that does it, but then society doesn't understand it. It can happen to either way. Men can be toxic, women can be toxic. It goes both ways. Now, yeah, usually it's the men who can be like that, but there's also women who are like that too. And it's not, again, it's not so black and white like society likes to think it is. And no one would believe me, and I even showed my mother, eventually showed proof, I showed proof and stuff that this was happening, but nobody was believing it. And when they did believe, they looked, like for one instance, they showed proof of something that was written on Facebook that she right away could have gotten could have gotten arrested or gotten charged with something. But then, of course, this person deleted it, probably on purpose, I'm sure, so that wouldn't be seen. And then, of course, when the school went back and said, oh, it's not there, we don't know what you're talking about, it's not there. And they would just tell you this person's good, when it's like, they're not. Like, I would be to the point where I was ready to yell at them and say, it's not. Like, you people need to believe me, but, school systems are just as bad as a court system, unfortunately. Back to the main stuff, from research and all that stuff. And obviously, to be in the movement, to the being, I feel like a relationship, I was, just from the emotional, I'm trying to think of the right word, like just the emotional pain, I guess you could say, from being in that abusive relationship. I didn't know what to do at the time. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just focused on careers. Had to go to therapy a lot of times. I ended up going through at least like 3-4 therapists, at least talking to different people, and stuff, and just going through a lot and not understanding why it happened to me and why this person would act that way. I'm obviously now with somebody who's a lot better, treats you the way they should, but this is the first person that was just crazy beyond belief. And I would just study and educate myself on different subjects when I was out there work, when I wasn't doing anything, when I was single, like science, money, and finance, like the stock market, build a business, make a business, and get my YouTube stuff going, American history, American politics, American law, and a lot of video games and Bible reading, mostly video games, but I did read books and stuff here and there to make sure to keep my brain in a peak condition and to keep learning, because you gotta keep learning, you want to keep learning. But being by yourself isn't a bad thing, and that way you can learn more about yourself and do the things you want to do, which is true. Oh, no, it's just a pencil, because I'm just sitting there using that as a pointer to when I'm reading, and I have a tendency to do hand gestures when I talk, because I have ADHD, so in case you wonder why you see this flying around. Anyway, what do you want to do? These things that I want to do, Back to Mgtow stuff. When it comes to a relationship, just be yourself. If they like the real you, then she will be with you. Sometimes she'll ask you to change things about yourself, and you then have to decide, are you willing to do that or not? There's nothing wrong with making some changes in your life, but you shouldn't completely change yourself just to improve somebody else, or because somebody tells you you need to change this, you need to change this and that, 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 to the point where you don't feel like you anymore. It's like, no, that's not who I am. Why do you have to change who I am? And that's kind of what I learned over the years. You don't want to be with somebody who's controlling, because the first person was just abusive. She was very, very controlling. So you just want to be yourself, and it's like, well, this is myself. If you don't like it, well, then you gotta hit the road. You gotta hit the road. I don't know what to tell you. That's who I am. Another thing is that Mgtows want to avoid gold diggers, which obviously does. Who doesn't want to be a gold digger? Unfortunately, the person I was with, who was abusive too, who treated me bad. My mother hates her and can't stand the idea that I was with her. Unfortunately, that person was a gold digger. My mother even said, she's a gold digger, she's no good, you need to get rid of her, look the other way, and just run like hell. But not all women are looking to spend or take your money for financial gain. There are women out there. Now sure, it may seem there's a lot to do that, but there are nice women out there who will treat you right and who won't just do you like that, You just gotta look for, red flags and be careful, which is obviously, or some like to balance it. Or like some guys feel that the woman and the man should balance out who pays for dates, which I agree with. A man shouldn't have to pay for dates over and 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 over again, paying the rent constantly, paying the. It's like my mother raised me. My mother, for instance. Or my stepfather there, they would share the bills and share, split it so that way each person has a chance to save money, build money up. And he would pay one time, she would pay another time, he would pay this time, she would pay the other time. Make it a fair transaction where both parties are helping each other and working for each other, and not just one side of, oh, you keep paying for me, pay for me, pay for me, pay for me. It just doesn't. It's a partnership. You guys are supposed to work, help each other out. Care for each other, help each other out. For good and for bad, for thick and for thin. Unfortunately, some people just, my first person was with, of course, she would always expect me to pay all the time. And like I said, I always said, I don't mind paying the first few dates. But after that, we should start, I don't see why not. We can't just, go Dutch, or, you pay some, all right, I'll pay some, you pay some, help me out, I'll help you out. If you pay, I'll help you out a little bit, be fair to you, be fair to me, be fair to me, fair to you. That's, 50-50. That's a win-win situation where it's fair for both people, and it's not just being a burden on one person, And I'm sure there's people who wouldn't agree with that, and it's like, well, that's fine, agree to disagree, This is a free country. You could, I'm just, again, explaining my thoughts, personal thoughts, and facts and opinion from different Mgtow stuff, and just general statistics, Oh, man, again, like I said, with the person with my girlfriend now, me and her go out, she pays, I pay, we make it a fair transaction, so it's not just putting the burden on one person, but we're helping each other out. And a lot of people, usually feminists, other people, but generally feminists are the ones who usually do this. And I'm not talking about those SJW, social justice warrior, politically correct kind of feminists. Those kind of, not the traditional feminism, rights for women. I agree with that completely. But I also agree men should have rights too. I believe men and women both should have the same rights. And taken seriously and all that stuff. And a lot of people shoot down Mgtows or men's rights activists for their views. But in a way, I think that they just want to have the same rights and seriousness that women get/have. Men get tired of being in a relationship where the girl they're with keeps finding ways to change it. That's something else. Sorry, that's something else. Before I get off topic. Yeah, basically about the same rights. So if a man says, "Hey, I'm in a relationship that this person is hurting me, or mentally or physically hurting me," and of course, unfortunately, it was physical and verbal abuse, unfortunately. And there's some men that are like that. And there's domestic violence shelters, but for women, you could find a bunch all day long. But for men, especially in my area, there's like barely any at all. There's like one or two, and that's it. Like there's very, very few nearby, and they're usually far. And my thing is, I think that every town should have it for men and women in each town or each county. There should be enough so that no matter who you are, if you're going through that, there's a shelter that you can find refuge to get away from your agitator who is putting you for this verbal or mental or physical harm, whatever it is. You shouldn't have to deal with that or be around near that person. That person should get the heck away from you, if anything. And you should run like a bat out of hell and get out of that situation. And everything too, of course, is that society pressures men to get married. And media shows men as a stupid/lazy guy on a couch. That said, it makes us men not feel good about ourselves in a way. It's insulting or offensive, if you will. Or sometimes family members or friends pressure you to find out when you find somebody. And so, to break that down, pressure to get married. I see people get married when they want to get married. There's no reason to push. Say, oh, you're getting older, you gotta get married. You gotta move on, get kids. Don't do it when they do it. Don't do it when they're ready. People have to do it when they're ready. Part of the reason why I think divorce happens, partially, is because people are shoved into it really quick that they have to get married after high school, soon afterwards, settle down, get married, all that stuff. When it's like, You know, you should live for your 20s, have some fun, do what you want to do, build money, build a career, and then get married and then have kids. So that way, when you're ready, you're less likely to have a divorce because you didn't when you're ready. Because I have my best friend's father did that rushed into marriage and everything, and now he's in a marriage where he's not. It seems to me, at least from what I've heard, it seems like he doesn't want to be in that marriage, or he wants to get away from it or get a break from it, but he can't. And this person can be hard to live with sometimes. And that's kind of my point, where if you do when you're ready and not just rush into it, it's less likely that it's going to become toxic or bad, and it'll actually be better, and chances of divorce plummet down a lot. You know, or like the media, the men look like we're lazy kind of couch or stupid, like Homer Simpson, for instance. You know, and that's a TV show, but there are commercials that show like men what are constantly drunken driving, and it's always shows that men drink and drive all the time. It's always men, or it's always men that do this, or men that always catcall. I'm like, well, or construction workers, and I've been around a lot of construction workers. I've worked in construction a little bit, and never once, not once, did I ever see a man catcall a woman. Even, and I've been to New York where it's stereotyped for that. I never once saw that. Not even once. Now, I'm sure there's people there. I'm not going to deny that. You know, I'm sure there's, guys who do that. Shame on them. They shouldn't be doing that to you, But there are, unfortunately, there are those types, And then for people who pressure you into a relationship or be with someone, Marion just says, I simply answer people like that is, I haven't found anybody yet, but when the right person comes along, I'll give them a chance. That's it. That's it. Just to shut them up if you need to. That way, you answer it simply without saying too much, but you don't say too little. Just say, well, if I find a person, I'll find a person, That's kind of how you handle it. That's how I used to handle it. Other problems, too, is that with divorce, depression, and some unfortunate cases, suicide can occur. And that actually happens because, and I was like that too, actually. I was really in a deep depression when my first relationship after it ended and during it. No one would believe me. No one wanted to hear it except for my family, my mother especially. My mother was getting really pissed off because she even saw the abuse right in front of her face, and she would always get angry and start arguing and yelling at my ex. She would let her have it. At the point where she was just going to school and saying that, and she's like, "No, you people need to believe my son. He's not lying. I know you people think I'm lying, but I'm not. I don't lie about this. And guys are pissing me off with this." And my mother, she's a really direct person. She will say how she feels, and she won't care if you like it or not. Her attitude is, well, this is how I feel, and this is the truth. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. This is one truth, and I'm going to say whether you like it or not, so sit down and listen. You're going to sit down and listen, or you can just walk off. But she's definitely not a person that doesn't sound pushy. She'll say, this is how I feel. Like, I'm sorry that hurts your feelings or this, but this is how I feel. Like, she's definitely the kind of person that she doesn't lie. She absolutely tells the truth all the time. And male suicide is a serious problem, which it is for anybody. But male suicide is higher due to, from work-related incidents, being from the military, prison, men being in prison who can feel that was suicidal. Divorce definitely causes it. Paying a lot of alimony and child support, and then being, broke, poor in the street, and barely surviving cause it. And it's a serious problem. And this one girl named Cassie, I can't remember the last name, did the movie The Red Pill. A very good movie. It actually explains this a lot, pretty good too, where she was actually the politically correct kind of feminist who argue with men rights activists, but actually changed her views and didn't become no longer considered a feminist, but then considered a men's rights activist, kind of like in the middle, where agrees that there needs to be change and that both sides need to be equal, but doesn't pick one side or the other. It just has her own independent thinking. And there's actually a podcast you can check out on YouTube. I know she was a pretty good podcast, so she explains the whole movie and everything too. And like I said, kids need basically a father figure which we got through. Just going for notes to save me because this video is taking a long time. Okay, and that's basically the take on it. Because it's a lot of notes, but I pretty much explained everything, how I feel, and then the stuff that I did research on. People said statistics, things that actually happen, statistics, and just personal opinion. And obviously, like here, like divorces actually can make child place. Divorces split families up, causes problems. Or some families, parents actually split and don't want to talk to each other, or they burn the kids getting right in the middle of the arguments, and the parents talk shit about the other to the kids, and the kids are confused and usually upset by it, and it's not right to put them in the middle because that's not them. It's like you guys didn't get along, and unfortunately divorce, which I would hope doesn't happen to anybody watching this video, but it's always hard on the kids, because even my mother and my stepfather are divorced, and that was hard on me because I didn't understand it. I was confused. I didn't understand why. I didn't know what to say or think. And it can be confusing. It's sad. But that's about it for this second installment of Mgtow ASMR 2. So be sure to like this video. Hit the like button if you like it, or let me know down in the comments. Remember to hit the subscribe button and ding the bell icon to get notified of videos. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all in the next video.